Hello, my name is Devin Ashby. Welcome again to this series, Discovering What My Family Already Knows. And today we have Lauren with us. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
And we're going to talk today about visiting your homelands. And homelands is kind of an interesting word. Lauren, why don't you tell us what a homeland is in this context?
So, in a nutshell, a homeland is anywhere that one of your ancestors lived. Mostly we use it to talk about foreign countries because it's different, but it can just loosely be applied to any place where members of your uh, extended family have lived.
Awesome. So it's not necessarily the country I live in now. It's all the homelands that make maybe like you would even get in like a DNA test, right? They would say you're from
Yeah,
these places. Okay. Awesome.
exactly.
So I would assume, Lauren, in this space of visiting your homelands, that visiting is best, right? Tell us why that is.
Visiting is best just because it gives you a deeper sense of reality. I think, there's in all matter of learning, it's one thing to like read about a place or learn about a place, it's another completely different thing to experience it. And so when you get that chance, you get this deeper sense of knowledge and a deeper sense of empathy for your ancestors that you might not have experienced otherwise. For example, actually isn't one of my homelands. This is a homeland of my friend. I was in Spain doing research, and one of my friends had ancestors from this little town nearby. And so on a day for a weekend trip, I went out there to try and give her some pictures of where her ancestors had lived. And in preparation, I'd found this old map that had all of the major farmhouses in a village, and it included herd. And I'd compared it to Google Maps. I'd found a road that followed the old road. And one day I just set off in a car and I found this farmhouse where her ancestors lived. And I actually have a
Wow.
picture of it.
Oh, it's still standing. Look at
It's
that.
still standing. And what
Wow.
I took a very careful picture of this because actually the other half has an addition that people live in. They were nice enough to let me wander around their property and take some pictures. But they
Wow.
have this half of the house that was built in the early 1700s, and then the family's still living there. They've just built off to the side. And
Talk about living genealogy right there.
yeah, and there was two things that I loved about this. The first was that there was a member of her family, Francisco, that I'd been helping her research for a long time. He was the first one to move into this to build this house. And so while I was there, you can see over the entryway on the right side, it has Francisco's name carved into the stone. And on the
Oh,
left,
wow.
it had his father, Isidro's name. And so just being able to see that, something that I never would have gotten in a document, this little mark that they had left was amazing. And
Hmm.
another thing was just, it took me 25 minutes driving in a car down a road to get from the center of town where the chapel was to this house. And it helped me sort of remember, because this was a strong Catholic family, that walking that in the 1700s would have taken much longer. And it
Wow.
helped me think about how long it would take them to go to market or to go to church or to go, anything they needed into town. And so these people that before had really been, names and dates on a page, for me and for my friend who got to experience it virtually through the photos and videos that I sent her, became a lot more real for both of us. And so for me, that is an example of part of the power of visiting your homeland. And even in this case, for the actual descendant of the person, she didn't get to do it in person. She didn't get to walk where they walked and smelled where they smelled, but she was able to do it vicariously through
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Well, and I love that you had mentioned empathizing. That walk probably completely changed your perspective on what that must have been like then and now. So I think that empathy is important. That's really wonderful. So, what about this question? Can I still learn about my homelands without visiting them?
Yes, especially in times when traveling is hard
Hmm.
and it's not even possible. It's really important. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to back up. Yes, there are a myriad of ways that you can learn about a homeland without visiting it. Some of the easiest are books and films. If you can go to a local library and just read about books about that country, or perhaps they have more specific ones about the counties or towns where your ancestors lived, you can get a good flavor for it. As genealogy and history becomes, and social history of individual people becomes more and more mainstream, people have been making a lot of documentaries. You could even just watch films that were shot in those countries to help you get a better taste. And of course, we have the internet now, which allows us to access millions of articles, websites that allow us to learn more about these homelands.
Wonderful. That's a perfect segue. So, Lauren, tell us about some of these websites that can help us learn about homelands. Which ones would you recommend, or how to go about that?
So my favorite website is actually Google Maps, because
That's a great one. Yeah.
it's great. And they've been trying really hard to film as many roads as they can throughout the world. And so a lot of my family is from England and also from Scandinavia, from Norway and Sweden. And a lot of these towns that I've been able to find from their birth records, death records, I'm able to go to on Google Maps and actually drop a little pin down, and they film the streets. And so virtually I can walk through these streets. And even though they're different now than they were then, it allows me to get a better sense of things. You can also Google your way into like state archives, into historical societies, lots of places that have taken amazing photos. FamilySearch has two options. One on their app that you can get on a tablet or a computer called Map My Ancestors, where it automatically pulls those locations from what you have on the tree and pops it onto a map so you can see and explore that way. On the website, it's called Where Am I From, which sort of saves a step in having to look up where people were from and just displays it that way.
Those are really, really great. Yeah. Who would have thought that in today's age, right, that we would be able to walk streets digitally? Very inexpensive way to learn about homelands is to use Google Maps. So
It is, because travel, even normally by itself, is expensive, but you're able to do a lot just by using the internet and be able to see these sites that they probably saw hundreds of years ago.
wonderful. So Lauren, what if people can't travel? 2020 is a very different year than what we've had in the past. What about people that can't travel? You've mentioned some websites. What would you say about that?
I think if you can't travel and you've gone through the websites, the next thing you want to do is try to reach out. Some of us are lucky enough to know cousins that live in those homelands. And so, we can always call them. They could always send us pictures, show us videos. If we're not that lucky, the FamilySearch Wiki has some amazing resources for local historical societies that we could reach out to there and just say, this is where my people are from. Do you have any photos? Do you have any videos? Do you have any information you could share with me? And also social media groups for places are exploding.
Yeah.
I help a lot of people who are looking for Italian ancestors, and there'll be Facebook groups for specific towns or even provinces where people from those places are helping all these people who are descended to get a better feel for the lives that their ancestors may have lived.
That's so interesting. So there are really a lot of different places, and I think reaching out is important. I remember meeting a woman once at a conference, a genealogy event, and she was doing a class, and she said, "I literally found my family on Facebook," because she said she knew about, I mean, her immediate family, she knew them, but she didn't know a lot more beyond that, and so she started looking on Facebook and looking for surnames and found family groups and found people that live there that sent her stuff. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways that we can connect, and I like that you mentioned those groups on Facebook. Those are pretty accessible.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up, Lauren, this has been really great. You've given us lots of good tips, lots to think about. Definitely if you can be there, but there's lots of ways, websites, resources, Google Maps, all kinds of different things. What would you leave us with as far as visiting your homelands? What would be your parting advice to people as they move forward with this?
I think, while everyone strives for that ideal of being able to be where your ancestors have been, there are a lot of ways that you can do that online. And so whether it's to reach out either through the internet or through even just a website to try and experience that, or by bringing it into your own home. I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the beautiful things about 2020 is that we've learned how to do a lot of things within the wall of our house.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if it's just doing family recipes or doing historic traditions from those places,
Yeah.
after the movie Coco was produced, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people of Mexican heritage have started re-celebrating Dia de los Muertos. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a wonderful way to bring your homeland into your home. Another thing you can do is look at photos that you have of your family. I have one that I've never been to Sweden, but at least I know if I look at this photo of my great great grandmother holding a little cat, that we both love our pet cats. And so just little ways to connect to see this tiny
A
little
connection.
cottage that they lived in are ways to sort of experience your homeland virtually. And so just seek tangible experiences. If you can travel somewhere to get that, that's wonderful. If not, just try and bring it into your home and you can still find those real lasting connections that we're looking for.
Wonderful. I love it. Bring your homeland into your home. That's something we can totally do today. So, Lauren, thanks for your time. Thanks for teaching us about homelands, and we look forward to the other sessions and classes that are in this series. So, thanks again.
My pleasure.